It's trying to zoom, but it's not zooming.
My sick tune. I don't know. Do you have my sick tune? Not yet.
Let me play this for you. Okay, I've not had this before. We have to do something with Taylor's recording.
Okay, let me.
Taylor's recording is now a sweeper for us.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 minutes of enjoyment for you and a lifetime of pain for her. My name is Taylor Davo. I say no to rape and stop the king.
At work, or doing the nasty. Oh my God!
That's awesome!
It really doesn't matter where you are. Experience the wild, the wacky, the incredible.
HOJ Radio.
It's MVP.
No time. You're listening to HOJ Radio.
Sir, are you ready? He's ready. Just okay, we're about to go on air.
If you are, I am.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Beatrice,
Go on.
You're listening to HOJ Radio.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the program House of Justice. My name is Gloria Ballason, your legal diva, and I am glad to be on this bounce back edition with you on a very serious topic. And it's an issue that several Nigerians have been worried about. And we're so glad this afternoon that we can have the right guests speak to the issues. This afternoon, we'll be discussing the topic, the NBC Code and the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. And who better than Dr. Tom Adaba and Femi Falana SAN to speak to these issues? Introducing guests. Tom Adaba is the pioneer principal of the NTA College Jos, and he is also the pioneer director general of the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission. He was the pioneer director general of the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission. It's good to have you on House of Justice, Dr. Adaba.
thank you very much.
Thank you for the pleasure. And we will soon be joined in by Femi Falana SAN. Femi Falana is a human rights activist, the president, West Africa Bar Association, and member International Bar Association, and he will be speaking to the legal issues. But taking it up with Dr. Adaba. Dr. Adaba, sir, you were the pioneer director general of the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission, and it was under your watch that the code was first birthed. Could you please tell us what the intent of the code was?
The code was, you know very well that there was nothing like, let me go a little bit onto the history. The military regime under General Ibrahim Babangida decided to democratize broadcasting in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Before then, it was all a government affair. And you either have television, government-owned television stations or government-owned radio stations. And in 1992, prior to that time anyway, there was a conference on broadcasting, on communications generally in Nigeria, in which arguments were for the introduction of private broadcasting or not. But at the end of the day, the recommendations were that the private broadcasting should be allowed to come in. After all, the fears that the military had was, the fear of a coup. But the Babangida regime was very, very thoughtful about it and decided that yes, we will give we'll let private broadcasting come in, but we'll limit them in terms of reach. You know very well that something like the NTA was across board in the entire country. No private broadcaster could do that at that material time. So the fear of they being involved in in a coup or whatever it is, or being used for that, did not arise. And you know that at that time, there was so much of this takeover of governments. It was rife in Nigeria. So the government sorted that out by allowing private broadcasters to come in, but limited in terms of the reach. And it sorted out quite a number of things. But having said that, when the private broadcasters came in, it was a real tasking operation, because the older ones that are there were not quite sure, what on earth these private broadcasters were coming to do. However, the private broadcasters came in. We midwifed them onto, joining the fray and being part of the of the entire broadcast system in Nigeria. In fact, they came in and gave a good account of themselves. They came in with a bang, and they were now running 24-hour service and whatever people thought would never be possible, but it was. Now, having said that, having this array of broadcast stations in the country, it was only right and proper that they be guided by certain rules. That's the genesis of the code. The code was to make broadcasting in Nigeria more professional than it was at that material time. Not tied to any apron string of any government or whatever it is, but let them be not necessarily totally independent, but let them be as objective as possible in handling national issues. So they came in and they blended in very well after a while. And they have been in it. The code binds all together, the private broadcasters and the public broadcasters. So as at now, we have over 700 stations in this country. So you can imagine what that will be, even in terms of monitoring and control. Control now in the sense that, you get them on the right path, correct them when they go wrong, not necessarily, pressing down on them what the commission wants, but, midwifing them onto the right path. So that's how the code came in. And we knew very well at that material time that unless we had that code, everybody will be going his own direction and said, well, we're not led by anything, so we're very free to do whatever we want to do. So we went into various aspects of broadcasting and the various areas of interest to Nigerians. And that's why we had to get people from both the media, some professionals in the media, got those from the legal departments, from even the market women. We paid up very well.
Yeah.
Then we discovered now that it was necessary in view of the
Hello, Dr. Adaba. I think that we have lost him for a bit, but I am sure he will connect shortly. That was Dr. Adaba giving a background of the NBC code and why there had to be a code during the Babangida era. I'm sure he's going to join us soon because that historical background is important for us to have a sense of why we should have a code and what that portends for the freedom of expression in Nigeria. The program again is House of Justice, and it is live on HOJ Radio TV, and we're broadcasting from Kaduna City. If you want to tweet, you can go up at HOJ Radio TV, one word. And if you're just connecting, you could watch this live on Facebook. The Facebook page is HOJ Radio /TV. It's a page, and you'll be able to watch us live from there. You may also prepare to call us soon with your own questions. Yes, Dr. Adaba. Dr. Adaba, can you hear me, sir? Okay, I'm sure that we will connect with him shortly for him to continue from where he left off on the historical background of the NBC code. especially at a time like this where many Nigerians are concerned about what the code means to the freedom of expression in Nigeria. You would recall that less than 2 weeks ago, a former presidential aspirant, Dr. Obadia Melafia, was on Nigeria Info where he expressed himself, and the radio station was fined 5 million as a result of his views, while the guest himself was invited by the DSS. So it is against that background that we are having this conversation this afternoon to understand what the code means and to know where the code stops and where the rights of Nigerians begin. We want to know whether there is an overreach or if there are any concerns and education that Nigerians need. And who better than Dr. Tom Adaba to educate us? Dr. Tom Adaba was the pioneer principal of the Nigeria Television Authority College in Jos, and he was also the pioneer director general of the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission. He is an elder statesman, and he is one of the revered voices that we have in this country. And it's such an honor that we can have him speak with us on these issues, especially because we've got to build this country progressively, and we've got to think through the decisions that we take and the long-term consequences. But so far, I need to read a few comments while we try to connect with Dr. Tom Adaba. One of the concerns that we have is a comment that came in from Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu from Abuja, and he said that he is concerned that the NBC would speak about being surprised about the injection of the fines in the code, and he wants to know why it is that they would be surprised when they're supposed to be a regulatory body as well as the broadcasting organization of Nigeria. And so he wants to understand why these issues are coming as a surprise to a regulatory body. We also have a few questions as we try to connect with Dr. Adaba, and I hope that we can connect with him as soon as possible. But just to let you know that we have been able to get in some of your concerns, and we will get it to our guest when he's back online with us. Sunday Abbas asks the question, can Nigeria judiciary be trusted in the face of different interpretations of the law and the experiences of the law and the experiences of some citizens who find that the courts shy away from placing the responsibility of rights violations when government or politicians are involved? Sunday, thank you for sending in this question. I am sure that Falana SAN or Dr. Adaba, when he comes back online, will be able to speak to those issues. Tijani Abubakar has asked who and what determines hate speech against the government. And I think that this provides a talking point, and it's a conversation that should go on. Who determines the hate speech against government, and what does that really mean? Randy Ambi Anto says, of what use are the rights to free speech and assembly in the Constitution if citizens cannot protest bad governance in speech or street protests? Thank you, Randy. Dr. Adaba, if you can hear us, even if you're having some challenges connecting, please, if you could take down some of those questions, we would be most grateful. Sheyin Edward Begay says, government officials and some politicians get away with spurious allegations and actions and hate words, while citizens who merely protest are clamped down by authorities for expressing how they feel. Is it a case of same laws, different applications? Falana, I'm sure, would be able to answer this. But let's see if we can throw the lines open for now and see what other views we can get as we try to connect with our two guests, Dr. Tom Adaba, who was with us earlier, and Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as we engage on the topic, the NBC Code and the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. The number to call is 070 4623 1510. I take the number again, 070 4623 1510. Wherever you are around the world, you can connect to share your views about the NBC Code and the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. 070 4623 1510. All right, yes, one other number, 070 3242 6904. The number again, 070 3242 6904. What are your views around the NBC Code and the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria? Of course, I should add that the NBC Code also has elevated the fine for hate speech to 5 million naira. So if you say anything against the government, what the code prescribes is that you are going to pay 5 million naira. So if you are a keke napep driver, you're going to sell your keke napep, you sell your father, your mother, and probably the entire generation, just saying. But those are the issues, and that's why it's important for everybody to key into this conversation. The NBC Code and the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria is what the discussion is this afternoon. And we have on board Dr. Tom Adaba, the pioneer principal of the NTA College, and Femi Falana SAN, human rights activist and principal partner, Falana and Co. in Lagos. So if you are joining and you want to express your views on the issues before our guests are able to connect with us, 070 3242 6904. Hello. All right, the learned senior advocate Femi Falana is joining us, and we are glad we can see that he's trying to connect, and we hope also that Dr. Tom Adaba will be able to connect back with us on this all-important discussion that is going to shape the course of our democracy, and we're trying to see if we can connect. Aha, Leonard Silk, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us on this discussion, and it's a pleasure to have you.
It's my pleasure.
All right, the topic for discussion this afternoon is the NBC Code and the rights to freedom of expression in Nigeria. And earlier on, before you were able to connect with us, Dr. Tom Adaba was giving us the historical background of the code. And now that you have joined in, a lot of people are concerned that the NBC Code is likely to infringe on the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, number one, there is a need for us as a people to appreciate that the fundamental rights contained in Chapter 4 of the Constitution and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights are products of the collective struggle of the African people. They are not rights given to us by the government as a gift. We fought for them, particularly under various military dictators. So the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria has been fought and won in the colonial era. It's important for us to know where we are legally. And as far as the democratic dispensation is concerned, the locus classicus with respect to the freedom of expression is the case of Otonwanko and the state, a court of appeal decision handed down in July 1983, where it was held that the freedom of expression fought for by the Nigerian people against the colonial regime must not be tampered with by any government, and that any government of official who feels offended by any publication will have to sue for libel and put his own character or her character in issue. But that the machinery of government must never be used to cow or intimidate political opponents. That is the language of the court. Of course, when we had a return of military dictatorship in January 1984, President Buhari enacted, the military dictator, General Buhari enacted some anti-media decrees. The famous one is Decree 4. Again, we defeated the decree. And so with the restoration of democratic rule, all anti-media laws were consigned to the dustbin of history. So we now have Section 36 of the Constitution, as well as Article 9 of the African Charter, that have guaranteed freedom of expression. Again, we had a case that would be useful here, which I handled for many of the leaders of the APC now, when you had the AMPP and the IGP. When General Babangida and others, Buhari and others, wanted a way of expressing themselves. The police said, no, if you don't have a police permit, you cannot demonstrate. And they came to me and went to the appeal to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal made the point that the National Assembly has a duty to protect the right to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly in Nigeria, and that therefore no Nigerian shall be required to obtain police permit to demonstrate for or against the government. Of course, under the current political dispensation, by virtue of Section 36 of the Constitution, nobody, no institution can impose a penalty on any citizen organization without taking the person to court. Nobody can wake up. Nobody. NBC cannot wake up and say, oh, thou shalt pay 5 million naira because we feel you have violated the provisions of the law. Because the allegation here is that the interview of Dr. Obadiah could lead to incitement. That is a serious criminal offense. And that could lead to a breach of the peace. That is another criminal offense. A court of law can find that somebody has indeed threatened the breach, the peace of the country, or incited the people of Nigeria. The NBC does not have the power to sit down. I mean, the members, the board members cannot sit down in their rooms in Abuja or Lagos and say, oh, Obadiah, we are convinced he has committed an offense. Therefore, the radio station that provided a forum for him to express himself has committed an offense, therefore thou shalt pay a penalty of 5 billion. No, it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and it can never stand. That's number one. Number two, under the current constitutional dispensation, no institution can wake up one day and decide to impose a levy or tax without a law made by the National Assembly. If the NBC intends to increase any penalty, it has to go to the National Assembly, because this is money paid that will go to the Federation account. And so what the law is saying is any levy, any tax to be imposed on the Nigerian people, there must be a money bill sent to the National Assembly by the President. So, because if you don't challenge this, 5 million may become 20 million naira or 50 million naira tomorrow. And the point we are making is that as far as the law is concerned, the constitution is concerned, what NBC to accuse the radio station, or you have committed an offense by conspiring with Dr. Obadia to incite the Nigerian people to breach the peace of the country. We are the witness. NBC has given evidence against you. NBC is the prosecutor. NBC is the judge. And so NBC has also imposed a penalty. And NBC is going to execute the judgment of the court. Again, this is very barbaric and primitive. We are not a banana republic. We are a public officer can wake up to say, oh, I believe in my mind that you have breached the law. Once you do that, we do not need the courts any longer. Whereas what is required is for NBC to complain to the Attorney General of the Federation, file a charge against the radio station and Dr. Obadia, that the two of you conspire to incite the Nigerian people. And the court will look at the alleged offenses and decide and come to the conclusion whether they have committed criminal offenses or not. But nobody has the power in Nigeria. And the Supreme Court has made the point clear in the case of Garba and the University of Maiduguri, where students were fired, they were dismissed for arson, for looting and other offenses. And the Supreme Court said no. Only a court of law can decide the guilt or otherwise of a student in any institution in Nigeria. Ditto for journalists. In fact, the case of Fontanwako that I cited earlier, the man had written a pamphlet of about 100 pages detailing what he considered to be heinous offenses committed by the governor of Anambra State, then, the old Anambra State, Governor Jim Nwobodo. Of course, Governor Jim Nwobodo got him arrested, prosecuted by the Ministry of Justice, and he was jailed, sentenced to 1 year imprisonment by the High Court. But the Court of Appeal said, no, never in Nigeria. Are you going to use the machinery of government to oppress your opponent? You go to court and allow the court to determine whether an offense has been committed. But if you feel personally injured, you must go and sue for libel and show that your reputation has been damaged. That is the law in Nigeria today. Finally, for now, I think the attention of many Nigerians have not been drawn to the recent decision of the ECOWAS Court of Justice in the case of incorporated trustee, of a national human rights body against the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And what happened in that case was that the organization challenged the constitutional validity of Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act, which provides that if you engage in cyber stalking, if you insult a public officer, you are deemed to have committed an offense and you'll be charged before the court. The ECOWAS Court of Justice has said no, that is inconsistent with Section 36 of the Constitution, as well as Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and therefore, the court ordered Nigeria to repeal the provision of that section from the law. So, as we are today, the human rights regime in Nigeria guarantees freedom of expression. Anybody who is offended by any publication, any defamation, will have to go to court. I'm sure you, just today or yesterday, you read in the papers that the vice president considered that it was libel. So he's got a lawyer to write to the Sun newspaper, can you give reason why we should not sue you for defaming our client? My colleague Ebwade Bura wrote the letter, and I think they gave the paper a week deadline. because the paper could not justify what it has published. The paper had to retract the story and apologize. I also had cause earlier to write to the Vanguard newspaper to also apologize to the vice president when I was briefed. And the newspaper also did the same thing. So if the vice president of the country could not ask the police to go and arrest those who have defamed his reputation, how can you, as a minister or a board, decide to impose fines? Fine. Only a court of law imposes fines in any democratic society. So what has been done here is an attempt by the NBC to reduce Nigeria to a banana republic. And this is going to be resisted. One of my colleagues has gone to court. Efion in Ibebe. I've also been briefed by the Media Rights Agenda and the International Press Center to take up this matter in court. I'm on the board of the Media Foundation for West Africa. This matter has been raised with me, and I was very ashamed to say this is what has happened in my country. I therefore would like to submit that the code cannot stand in law. The code cannot be allowed in a democratic society. And I'm challenging the media to take this matter up with the government and ensure that the struggle that we have waged and won is not wiped out by any code. I mean, I'm sure you are aware that there have been an attempt to get the National Assembly to enact a law against the media in Nigeria. Yeah. But that has failed. So you can't use the code now through the back door to impose penalties on people who exercise their freedom of expression in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard Silk. And speaking about the role of the judiciary in all of this and the issues that the country is now faced with, you made it quite clear that the right to freedom of expression and the right to peaceful assembly are all guaranteed under the Constitution. But also the reality, which I am sure you can testify about because you are Chores lawyer, is that the right to peaceful assembly is being infringed by the government, and the right to expression is being infringed by the government as well. And so Sunday Abbas asks the question, can Nigeria's judiciary be trusted in the face of different interpretations of the law and the experiences of some citizens who find that the courts shy away from placing the responsibility of rights violations when government or politicians are involved?
Is that the question for me?
Yes, that's a question for you, sir.
Yeah, where we can, I've cited cases decided by Nigerian courts and the regional court, the ECOWAS court. The judiciary has never failed Nigerians in terms of defending the right to freedom of expression in our country. I've filed complaints by people in government who feel that, oh, if we sue, the case may be in court for the next 5 or 10 years. And I have suggested, you have the Nigerian Press Council, reconstitute the Nigerian Press Council so that they can deal speedily with complaints arising from the excesses of media men and women. I belong to a profession, the Nigerian Bar Association. We have a way of dealing with quacks. We also have a way of dealing with those who abuse the rights and privileges of citizens or lawyers who betray their client. It's the same thing with the medical profession. You can complain to the Dental and Medical Council if somebody, if a doctor has been negligent in the performance of his or her duty. For me, therefore, the Nigerian Press Council should be reconstituted so that that body can deal with excesses of media people, because there is nobody to, I mean, there is no law, or rather I can say under the Constitution, there are no rights that are absolute. I mean, the right to life is the most fundamental of all human rights, because you need to be alive to enjoy other rights. But if you kill your neighbor, and under the law, and you are charged with murder and convicted, the law says you should be killed, you know. So that is the toughest punishment you can imagine under the law. But the point I'm making therefore is that the judiciary has since colonial days, you know, I know apart from under the colonial regime, when many Nigerians were jailed for sedition, people like the late Nahoro, Mogo Okoye, and many of them were jailed under the sedition law. In 1983, the case has
Okay, we have lost the Leonard Silk for a bit, but I'm sure he will connect with us shortly. Yes, Leonard
yes,
Silk.
I'm okay now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're listening to you, Leonard Silk. And thank you, Dr. Adaba, for joining us again.
Hello?
Yes, Leonard Silk, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you for that. Dr. Adaba, thank you for rejoining us back again. Femi Falana SAN has made a point around the fact that the NBC cannot be the prosecutor and then be the court and then also implement the law. And he spoke about that against the background of the NBC imposing the fine of 5 million on Nigerian Info for an interview that was granted by Dr. Obadiah Lafia, former presidential candidate. Is that something that you would allude to, or do you have a contrary opinion?
I agree absolutely with him.
Yeah,
I agree totally with him. There's got to be a way of the commission proving itself a neutral body. Yes, it's true that it makes the laws or makes the rules. In terms of implementation, it's got to be there. But there has got to be a higher body that will look at, you know, what the issues are. And that's why I believe the commission has a board. A board is supposed to look into all this, even complaints that come from the various stakeholders. NBC as a body, as you know, it cannot do all this on its own. Where is the justification? How are you sure that you are being fair in your approach to the various issues that are concerned? So I agree totally with him. And in fact, it is so complicated right now that internally there are some few issues that need to be sorted out. Mm-hmm. Number one, am I on? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you.
Number one, the amendment is being talked about. Who really handles the issues about the code, which are policy statements for the commission? It's the board. I mean, the board was not even carried along to arrive at this conclusion. Don't forget that in 2019, there was the four-year meetings that they usually have to review the code was held with the stakeholders in Kano. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, there was something that took place in Lagos. And this issue came up and they arrived at that 5 million and what have you, which the board was not aware of. If at all, there were just one or two people in the board that were in that place. And I think that's a betrayal. It's not the very best at all. So that itself is a crisis point. Now to go and implement it and begin to say you're laying this fine on the broadcast house, I think there's a lot more that meets the eye. Unfortunately, from what I see of the NBC today, it looks like it's being overly controlled by the ministry. And that does not do any good for a body that is supposed to be independent in its judgment and in all things that they're doing for the good of the broadcast industry. Imagine over 700 stations in the country today. Their monitoring role should be more than enough responsibility for them. But I'm not saying that they should not do other things, in terms of regulating the broadcast industry to keep it online, or keep everything on its toes. But this is pretty controversial. It is controversial in the sense that the board has come out now to say to dissociate itself from it. So how does it become legal? And that's what they're querying. It cannot be an issue of the Director General and the Minister alone. That was the essence of having a board there. The board is supposed to be a policy-making body for the system. And if the body is excluded from this, how would it hold? So it's in itself a very questionable issue. I think it's necessary that they review it very seriously and put that thing of 5 million naira on hold until things are really cleared and the exact situation is made clear to all concerned. And of course, the exact position of the board is seen as not just an integral part of the entire decision making, but as a very important one. Not the minister. The minister, yes, is over and above the commission. When things are at their tough points, that's when he should come in. But I don't think this particular development is palatable. It's not at all. And I think they should seriously review it and get all the stakeholders concerned to look at it. And there doesn't have to be unanimity, but at least if you have a majority viewpoint there, then you can go ahead with what it is. But right now, it can't be decided by one or two people, and then you expect that it will hold on every stakeholder concerned. So that's my view of it. They need to really look at it on a very serious point. It's not giving the broadcast industry a good image. Just like you said in your question, how can we be the prosecutor, the judge, the this, the that? I'm still saying we. It's a long time I left it. But anyway, that's the way I look at NBC. I think NBC should be allowed to be as independent as possible and making independent decisions that will go well for the entire broadcast industry.
All right, thank you very much. Leonard Silk, I hope that you can hear us.
Yes, very well.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Adaba just spoke about the minister being, he comes in when the things have escalated, if I got him quite clearly. But the question that would go with that is whether the minister himself can unilaterally inject a law without going through due process. And tied to that is a question by Tijani Abubakar, who is asking who and what determines hate speech against government, and what is hate speech against citizens?
Right.
Leonard Silk?
Is that for me or Dr. Adaba?
No, Leonard Silk. Start.
Yeah.
Well, I think I would like to pick it up from where Dr. Adaba left off. I mean, I think in a very profound sense, I think he's made the point that you can't put nothing on nothing and expect it to stand. If the validity of the board decision is being challenged, And about 2 members have come out to say, sorry, we know nothing about this code. I mean, you can't go out and enforce the code because that means there was no decision of the board to amend the code. So there's a problem there. And again, we have to, we must stop.
Hey, not again. Good.
All right. I think we've lost Falana for a bit, but I'm sure he will connect with us. But we can hear.
I mean, this is the largest.
Right. Hello, network. Oh, it's the nature of technology.
So Nigeria is expected to show leadership in the region.
Exactly.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. If a board is constituted by the government and the board is said to be independent, manned by competent professionals, I think it is a height of insult, to bypass them, the board members, and announce a decision. We should expect to be binding on them. And this is why I would like to commend the 2 members that have spoken out against this code, because they are expected to defend the code. So I think the government will have to go back to the drawing table. How can we organize, assess properly the media? Because the media have gone through a lot in Nigeria. And I'm saying some of the rights that have been fought and won cannot just be thrown away by the Honorable Minister or anybody for that matter. So the government will have his point, and the government can make his position known. Oh, we want to do this. Please, can you help us? And I'm sure some of the board members will have said, Honorable Minister, I thought we were trying to pass this law through the parliament. Why don't you go there? Because I can tell you, I'm sure Dr. Adaba will be surprised. Very few offenses in Nigeria. Very few offenses in Nigeria attract the penalty of 5 million naira. Only very few offenses, very serious offenses, So, but if you just say, somebody has made a mistake, I'm going to court. And if we are not careful, the NBC is going to engage in intractable legal lawsuits, unnecessary. I mean, I can talk of a personal experience. And my son, a lawyer, also a musician, had this record. This is Nigeria, which the last time I saw the program, over 20 million people around the world. I've viewed the program on YouTube. But the NBC, I think one of the radio stations in Jos played the tape. And the NBC imposed, I think, a fine of about 200,000, and I can't remember now. But my son went to court. Tom, you cannot stop a radio station from playing my music unless you can go to court and show that the contents are offensive. But you can't just sit down in your room. So I don't like this record. Maybe for religious reasons or for other reasons. And I think that is the point Dr. Adaba just made. There must be an independent body to hear your complaints as NBC and then decide so that the decision can be respected. But you can't be the accuser, the complainant, the witness, the judge, all rolled into one. That kind of position is alien to our democratic system of government. Even under the military, you still have to have some panel. You may not agree with the composition of the panel, but there must be a body that appears independent. And what the law is saying, Section 36(1) of the Constitution, is that in the determination of the civil rights and obligations of a Nigerian, a court or tribunal shall be constituted in such a way as to guarantee its independence and impartiality. But you can't have a department of the government deciding the fate of a Nigerian without giving him, even without challenging him, like in this case. assuming the code was properly passed, the amendment was properly passed, the NBC would still have to write to the radio station or to Dr.
Exactly.
Please,
Exactly.
can you give us reasons why we should not penalize you? This happens every day in our homes, in our offices. There must be a query. And the radio station, the management may say, sorry. I mean, we do not even know when that program was put on. We do not know, and we have seen it in this country, where you are an editor in the dead of the night when the editor or the managing director is in his bed, at home sleeping. Maybe somebody just smuggled something into the station or into in the newspaper. Now, evidence must be given. How did this broadcast take place? What was the intention? And sometimes somebody may just come and say, I am sorry. I didn't intend I didn't mean an harm. It was a mistake on my part. And that will be the end of the matter. But again, as I said, there must be an independent forum to determine the guilt or otherwise of a journalist, of a broadcaster, or anybody, or even a member of the public. But our constitution does not allow anybody, any group of people, to decide the guilt of anybody without going to court. And in the case I cited earlier, in fact, the Supreme Court made the point, Garba University of Maiduguri, that while other nations are taking advantage of youthful exuberance, helping their youths to be mature, we are stigmatizing them with criminal offenses without going to court. And I think that is the point I'm making. Apart from other problematics run into with respect to this code, there is also the need for us to learn to do things properly as understood by the law. And what the Constitution understands or has stipulated is that there must be independent bodies to determine the fate of citizens. You must also give them the opportunity to make a representation before you decide their fate. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Falana SAN. We are on a race against time, but just two more questions, one for Dr. Adaba and then one for the Leonard Seal. Dr. Adaba, Nigerians are concerned that there is so much emphasis around hate speech, but nobody is talking about the hate actions that the government itself carries out for which citizens react to. Is this a matter that the NBC could contemplate in terms of providing the delicate balance between expression and also truth-telling?
Thank you very much. Before I get into that, let me chip in a word or two, for what Chief Falana has said. I think there are about 12 to 14 members of the board of the NBC.
Yeah.
The two that he was talking about were the ones that were not at that conference by the chairman of the board. All the others were there, were present, and they were in total support of what the chairman of the board was talked about. They decided this unanimously. So it is the two that he's talking about are not the ones that were opposed to what had been done. They were they're not the ones that were opposed to the code amendment. The code. The code. They were the 12 or so of them that were together there were the ones that dissociated themselves from the code, that they had nothing to do with it. The code is amended every 4 years. It has just been done in 2019. For this to have been brought in, all overnight and handled by a few people was what the board was vehemently opposed to. Having said that, when we talk of hate speech, the greatest criminals in hate speech are politicians, with due respect. They are the ones who abuse one another, on the podium and all other things. Has the NBC, has the Ministry of Information defined hate speech? Have they told us, if you do this, it is hate speech. If you do that, it is hate speech. There's got to be a point of takeoff. Now, how is that determined? Is it the prerogative of the government to now say, what you have done is hate speech?
Mm-hmm.
Or who does that? So I am worried about that because it's sliding us onto some level of anarchy. I don't want to say anything else. But who determines hate speech? What are the criteria for determining hate speech? And it is after that that you now talk of what punishment will be meted out to any such person. And as my brother said, you don't just take a decision simply because you are in authority to do it. You've got to hear the other voice. You've got to hear them lay their case. Why did you do this? That's what starts it. We noticed that you did such and such and such a thing. Why did you do it? Give us an explanation. And if the explanation is not cogent, then you now can take the next step. But slamming 5 million naira just on a station, I honestly don't know what internal things were that NBC did, before they arrived at that. But I think the broadcast itself and the slamming of the fine, the time in between was so short that I don't want to believe that they could have done anything by way of investigation before slamming that. But if they have, I apologize. But I really think that there could be a lot neater means of taking care of these things than portraying ourselves as being unnecessarily controversial. I think the NBC is designed to professionalize the industry, and it should set itself out to do that. If the steps are going towards politics, I'm afraid it could burn our hands. And I know what I went through to set up the NBC. I wouldn't want it to collapse. So I want my colleagues in the industry to work with the board and be as professional as possible and get out of any form of litigation, because that doesn't do us any good. I'm not too sure I answered the question you asked. Do I? Have I answered?
The issue around hate speech and hate actions.
Yes, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's got to be more clearly defined.
Yeah,
I'm afraid. Because if it is not, any such action that comes up as is with the case with the NBC now, will be subject to litigation. Who defines it? Who determines it? Is it from you hearing or from the person who is relaying it? And in this particular case, this is a messenger that you are now punishing. The radio station that carried it. The radio station is not the originator of that, whatever you identify as hate speech. And it's very questionable. The radio station is not. The radio station is fined 5 million naira. What are you going to do to the person who actually, from whose mouth the said statement emanated? I don't know. Honestly, it's a bit quizzical. I think we need to be very, very careful not to get the NBC descend to any element of ridicule. It should be a very, very highly respected professional body that will make sure that broadcasting is streamlined for the good of the people and for the sake of the profession.
Speaking of which, the Nigerian Bar Association will begin its conference soon, and it takes us to the root cause of why the interview was granted on Nigeria Info, which was the issue around insecurity in southern Kaduna. And a lot of lawyers, Leonard Silks, are protesting the platform given to Governor Nasir El-Rufai as resource person at the NBA conference. Is this likely going to be another issue of hate speech, and is there some legitimacy around this protest?
You mean the invitation to Governor El-Rufai?
Yes, and the protest by Nigerian lawyers, by some Nigerian lawyers.
Well, I'm just preparing a letter because we also suffer from institutional memory in the legal profession. In 2006, we had a 2-day boycott of courts to protest disobedience to court orders. And we identified 8 court orders that were being disobeyed at the material time. 3 out of the 8 were disregarded by Governor, who was then the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. The government was embarrassed. The Olusegun Obasanjo administration was embarrassed. And by the action of the lawyers, and did instruct the then Attorney General, Chibayo SAN, to ensure that the orders being complained about by lawyers were complied with. All the other orders, all the other government departments complied, apart from Mr. El-Rufai. And it has continued. And just like the question you asked earlier, one of the complaints of the lawyer, apart from disobedience of court orders, and Governor El-Rufai is being accused of having a penchant for disregarding court orders and the rule of law. One other allegation is that this governor, with profound respect, has made a lot of inciting statements, either saying, threatening foreign observer, election observer, that they will go back home in, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, we have to give money to certain people who were killing people in southern Kaduna, and I think that is the question you try to ask. Who is to bring the government officials to book when they make inciting statements that cause problems with respect to the breach of peace in the country? So, and that is why we need an independent NBC, independent in all ramifications, who can bring to book anybody in the broadcasting media, broadcasting, area, so that we can have a country run under the rule of law. The law must not respect anybody, whoever you are, unless you respect yourself. I'm sure the Nigerian Bar Association leaders will have to respect the feelings of the members, because as of this morning, about 1,700 lawyers have signed a statement that Governor Rufai's name be withdrawn. Governor Rufai should not be allowed to address lawyers because of the fact that he has been associated with disobedience of court orders, abuse of the rule of law, making inciting statement that lawyers believe have contributed to the crisis, in Kaduna State. And so for these reasons, I'm sure the leadership of the NBA will have to review the invitation extended to the governor. And now for me, for all public officers in Nigeria, this is a great lesson that everybody has to learn, that people are watching them. Even if you believe you enjoy immunity with respect to prosecution, people can also prosecute you morally. And I think that is what is going on, and I'm very confident. I've spoken. Don't embarrass your guest. Simply explain to your guest that our members, are protesting the invitation we extended to you. We apologize. Please, we are withdrawing the invitation. And that's all. So that others will learn from that kind of experience. And that is how you run a country under the rule of law. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that the Nigerian Bar Association, whose motto is the promotion of the rule of law, is listening to you. And since Leonard Silk is also going to lend his voice, let's see how that pans out in terms of what the alternative for immunity for erring leaders could be. We will just take wrap-up statements from Dr. Adaba, and then we can call it today. Dr. Adaba, please, your final thoughts.
Thank you very much. I believe that what is going on now in the NBC, even though it seems remote controlled, has a short life to live. It will be history. It will come to pass. And I'm looking forward to us. I keep talking of us. I'm not part of NBC. I am looking forward to NBC reclaiming its independence and coming out more forthrightly to deal with the issues of professionalism and helping to make Nigeria sane in terms of distribution of information, dissemination of information. And once we're able to do that, that's the role that the NBC is meant to play, and there will be a lot of peace. But if we allow ourselves to play ourselves into political hands or political issues, I'm afraid anything called politics is naturally divisive. I'm talking of party politics now. You're either on this side or on the other. If you decide to stay in the middle, you command a lot of respect. But if you decide to take sides, be assured that the other side will throw mud at you. And I don't think that's what the NBC was created to. Incidentally, the NBC was created in a military regime. And there was never one time where, at least for the 7 years that I served there, that I was prompted to do anything regarding regulation of broadcasting in Nigeria. I think we can still get back to it. And the earlier we do, the better it is for all of us.
Thank you. And on that note, we'd like to express profound gratitude to Dr. Tom Adaba, pioneer principal of the Nigerian Television Authority College in Jos and pioneer director general of the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission. Thank you very much, Dr. Adaba, for joining us this evening.
Can I quickly say, please, it's National Broadcasting Commission.
Oh, National Broadcasting Commission.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Even though I'm campaigning for them, even though I'm not there.
But you've been saying, even though part of us, so you would take leadership. We're hoping that since you're still here with us, that some of these issues will be sorted out with you giving them advice. Thank you very much, sir.
Be assured, it's my pleasure.
And thank you, Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and human rights activist, for joining us this afternoon and highlighting the legal issues. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. And I'm also particularly delighted to hear the very sweet voice of Dr. Adaba once again. It's been a very, very
Thank you.
I wish you long.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very grateful.
All right. On that note, we sign out for
Thank you, sir.
My name is Gloria Ballason, urging you to insist on the force of law and not the law of force. Bye for now.
Hit it. Hit it. Hit it. Hit it. Yes, yes, y'all, and we don't stop. Come on.
Keep it locked. This is HOJ Radio.